Good afternoon, and welcome to the Chat with the Technology Professors. I'm Laura Laporte from the admissions office here at Fulton-Montgomery Community College, and today we're going to be discussing Automation Systems Mechatronics Certificate, Construction Technology Sustainable Building AAS degree, Electrical Technology AAS degree, Facilities Maintenance and Industrial Technology AAS degree, Facilities Maintenance Certificate, Heating, Ventilation, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Technology Certificate. And with that, I would like to introduce you to our professors today. Jeremy Spragues, Assistant Professor for Electrical Technology. Hi, Jeremy. Roger Young, Assistant Professor, Electrical Technology. Hi, Roger. And Ross Van Alstron, Adjunct Professor for HVAC program. Hey, Ross. Before we get started and I hand the presentation over to the professors, I just want to mention to the participants that your questions are welcome. And the way that you would ask a question is just to go into the chat function, type in your question, and as the professors pause, I will read your questions aloud and get your answers. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy Spragues to start it off. Hi, Jeremy.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good.
I'm glad that you're tuning in and glad that you're checking this out. I'm happy for you to learn about our programs and what we have here and to learn about some of the opportunities. I'll talk mostly about electrical technology in the beginning. It's a 2-year program and it can lead to a lot of different roles. It's a broad base. There are a lot of different careers you can start after that. We have students who work in Global Foundries is a large employer nearby, but we have a variety of workplaces, anything from some broadcast places, there are some manufacturing of all kinds of different items. Our grads are definitely in demand. Grads are able to find good jobs, good starting jobs, and which can turn into long-term careers. So our program, a 2-year program, an AAS program, primarily people enter the workforce, but there are opportunities to go to continue on after that and earn a bachelor's degree. We have articulation agreements with SUNY Poly in Utica, so students can go for another 2 years and get a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering Technology. Same deal with Rochester Institute of Technology, RIT. Students have traveled on and gone on there. And then enter the workforce as an engineer a couple years later. We even have another student who soon after is working on his master's now. We also have other opportunities to transfer through Excelsior. It's a fully online. So some students enter the workforce, they have a job, and then their employer can pay for the online courses to continue. As far as our program, what we do in our program, we have some fundamental courses, and then we learn about some kind of finishing items. There are 2 main areas of focus. As a community college, we can change our focus over time to meet the needs of local employers and not just local. So we change our focus. So our focus now are 2 main areas of the semiconductor industry, which Roger Young has a background and he can talk about, and also factory automation or just automation. Robotics and automation, that's the other area. And that's my background. I've worked in manufacturing for 20 plus years. I've worked at a few different places, and then for a couple of years I worked for a distributor of automation products. And that's where while I was there, I was asked by FM to teach a course as an adjunct in automation, and I did, and I loved it, and I got hooked, and I think FM has a lot to offer. So that's where I've been for the last 10 years. To keep my job at FM, I had to go back to school. I had to earn my master's, so I had to go back to school also. And so I've got some experience in the last 10 years on both sides of the desk. And so some things about our courses, as far as the automation courses, every Electech course has a lab. So there's plenty of hands-on activity. We have different labs. We have 3 different labs, and one is a fundamental lab, one is a clean room Roger's going to talk about, and we also have an automation lab, and we have a large machine that has PLCs and a bunch of sensors, actuators, and we can troubleshoot that and take things apart, put things back together. And there's a robot on there, small, like industrial robot that moves items around. So that's where that's most of the things. Sometimes I hear students have a concern about math, and they're kind of intimidated about the math coming into it. And the thing is, we don't necessarily require a lot of math, but we use it as a tool. We don't teach math just for the sake of learning math. We use it as a tool. So sometimes that really helps people. Sometimes people might be a little intimidated and hear about the math or whatever, but we use it in the courses as a tool. I'll also mention briefly that we have an associated 1-year certificate. So instead of going for 2 years, you can go for 1 year. That's the Automation Systems Mechatronics. Mechatronics is a term used mostly in education, but a lot of employers know it. But that has to do with mechanical and electronics. It's the combination of controls and the hardware that goes with it. So if you enjoy tinkering with things or figuring out how things work, that's definitely either the Elect Tech program or the mechatronics are definitely good for you. So that's most of the info about the program. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah, Jeremy, you have some really interesting equipment in your lab. I know you have a 3D printer and that mechatronics. It's to me, it's like a little assembly line kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Why is that equipment important in your degree? What value does that add to students as they're learning this field?
I tell you, the value is being proven not just because of our students using it, but we offer some non-credit classes for local employers. So I've had in the last 7 or 8 years, I've had well over 200 different people working for about 12.5 different employers. So employers will send their current employees through some non-credit courses we have, and that is the focus of this. We go over some automation, and we use that as a troubleshooting tool. So we introduce problems in it, and that's really the point. That's to find out to efficiently troubleshoot. So the fact that employers want us to use that with their employees is, I think, a good validation that it's a valuable tool. I'll point out another thing too. Many people don't really know about electrical technology or where it goes, what kind of careers there are. Sometimes people think it's more of an electrician kind of a role, which it's not. It's a technician level course program. It's a technician level program where people, if you have worked in manufacturing and been involved in different manufacturing facilities, and it's not all in manufacturing, then you might have an idea. But it's the troubleshooting of the automated equipment, and it's not quite maintenance, and it's not quite engineering. I think a lot of people, when they think of engineering, they're thinking of technician level jobs. If you think about working with programmable controllers, think about automation, drives, and robotics. A lot of that really is technicians that are managing that are handling that. So sometimes people think they want to go into engineering, and if somebody is interested in kind of more theoretical math and a lot more physics, that's great. And I don't want to stop anybody from doing that. But I think a lot of people have misconceptions, and really it's the technician level, such as the Elect Tech program, that might be interested.
One other piece, if you can clarify for us, Jeremy, is there are all now, the big thing now is all these high-tech manufacturing, factories, if you will, global foundries, Beechnut. Why is there a need for engineering technicians in conjunction with this new technology, and technology continues to advance. Why is it so important for employers to have graduates from the electrical technology program in their field?
That's a good question. You mentioned BeechNut. I was there at 6 o'clock this morning teaching a class, and I was there yesterday teaching a class. So we have a, BeechNut we have a good relationship with BeechNut. We're fortunate for, actually, I should point that out. I'll interrupt. Squirrel we're really fortunate with our relationship with employers. Employers tend to want people with our program's skills. So they're definitely interested in helping. But to your question, it's not just manufacturing, it's also, it's just a wide range of industries. But I can say that 15, 20 years ago, equipment was a lot simpler. I mean, there was plenty of automation, but places could have a maintenance person change a lot of the items in the plant. It's a little bit different now. You don't necessarily need engineers to re-engineer things, but it's pretty unusual to buy a piece of equipment without some kind of a controller in it, whether it's a programmable controller, some type of automation inside of it. And you can't buy a cardboard baler without safety relays and probably a small PLC. So we've gone from the era of being able to just change parts. Now it's less of the parts changing and more of the troubleshooting, and also being able to install more automated stuff. It's a lot like cars. When you think about cars from 20, 30 years ago, anybody with the skills and with the learning is going to be able to figure things out and work on them. Now, a lot of cars, you have the computer that runs it and some sensors, and you need specific training to be able to work on a lot of portions of cars now.
Well, good. Well, thank you. I think that's all the questions. I guess we're going to move on to Roger now. Talk a little bit about your area of expertise with regards to electrical technology program, Roger.
Well, I'm Roger Young, and I work with Jeremy, and I teach electronics, which is a lot of fun. In electronics, you learn your basic circuits and you work with sensors and we build things. It's a lot of fun in that class. Also, we have a clean room at FM. Now, this is something that really separates Fulton-Montgomery College, community college, from many other colleges, since they don't have a clean room. So in this clean room, you gown up just like a bunny suit. It's a white suit, you have a mask, you have goggles, you have the booties, and you go on in. And the reason we do that is because we want you to get acclimated to wearing a clean room suit and knowing why you need to wear one. And you go in the room and then you perform things, measurements and things that you would do on the job. This particular clean room is geared towards semiconductor manufacturing, okay? So with semiconductor manufacturing, there's process steps and then there's measurement steps, for example. So we have quite a few measurement tools in the lab, in the clean room. So you would conduct your lab in the clean room, right? So we have an atomic force microscope. That's an interesting tool. It's on an air table, and it will help you look at the roughness of a surface. It's quite fascinating when you start using it. Students really like that. We also have a reflectometer. Reflectometer is something that optically measures thickness of materials that are translucent. Okay, that requires you got to set up the software to perform the measurement. That's basically what you do in that lab. We also have two optical microscopes, right? One of them, you have samples which are face down. One of them, you have samples which are face up. And you can also perform measurements on these. Finally, we have an electron microscope. That's really fun. Students usually bring in something at the end of the semester, and we put it under there and we measure it, right? A lot of people like to bring in a dead beetle, for example, or something, or a fly and look at the fly's eye, which is fascinating. So that's the clean room. And the jobs that you would once you take that class, you understand why you need a clean room. But you could work in like Global Foundries. They have a clean room in Malta. You'd be well set. And many of the students who go to school here graduate and go to work at Global Foundries. It's a very good place to work, and our program is well suited to get you in there and hit the ground running. You could also work in where they make drugs like aspirin and things like that. Usually these places, the pharmaceutical industry, they produce their product in a clean room, right? So you have to know how to work in that kind of environment. Additionally, other than the clean room, we have microcontrollers. That's a fun class, and at the end of that class, you actually write a program to turn a motor. It's rather exciting. You do it yourself. It sounds really small, but when you go through it and you understand all of it, it's enlightening. Students really enjoy that. So it's a fun thing, you know. Oh, we also, let me say this, so other things are coming to mind. We also have a lab on vacuum. For those of you who don't know what vacuum is, it's a chamber, or it's going to be a volume that you have at lower than atmospheric pressure, right? I'm not talking about the vacuum you push around to clean your carpets, right? So, and then you have pumps which pump it down, and you have to have equipment and piping and things that you put together to do that. And we have a lab on that. I bring someone over from SUNY Albany, and that's a really fun time. It's a great time for the students. So that
Good.
that's it.
I know maybe you or Jeremy can respond to this. I know you had some really interesting internships for students within your program. Can either of you talk about what those internships, where they were, what they entailed, and maybe how they helped students?
Well, I can answer that one. I had two or three students this semester working at Global Foundries in the clean room in this last semester. They were also taking my semiconductor class it uses a clean room. So it was apples to apples, what they were doing on the job and what I was teaching. So that seemed to be a really good fit there. Jeremy, is anyone go to Beach Nut or anything?
Not that I know of yet, but we've had students in the past with SUNY Poly in Albany. We have internships with them. But
Yes.
Also, as Roger mentioned, at Global Foundries, that can be a really good deal. They'll hire somebody to work, full time during the summer, and then when the second year starts, in our 2-year program, the summer in between the years, Global will hire people, and then during the second year they work part time. They'll work on Sundays and kind of work that out with schedule wise. And that has worked out really well for people. So students end up graduating and they've got close to a year of experience.
There's something I want to say about that my students might really be interested in, and prospective students, is that we have the ability in these classes to teach remotely. Now, remotely is not the same as online. Basically, and these students who work there, all of them participated in this. If you're working at a company and you can't take work off to drive to the campus, take the class, and drive back to work, that could be 3 or 4 hours a time. So just like this, we teach the lecture or have the lecture, but we have a camera in there. So you're participating real time with everyone else, listening to the lecture, answering questions, all this. It's just done remotely. So this was done, and we've been doing this now for several years actually, but this was done to allow students, working students, to give them access to these classes while they're working, right? That's a little bit easier on the employer. Additionally, if you're a single mom or single dad and you have a sick child, you have to stay home with your child, you can still attend class this way. And at least in my classes, all of the homework is handed in, submitted over the computer. It's electronically. So if it's really bad weather outside, you can still do your work and submit it. And yeah, it's all designed to make the school and these classes accessible to you for your different needs.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. So I think we're going to move on now to Ross and talk about our heating, ventilation, air conditioning, cooling, and refrigeration program. So welcome, Ross.
Hi, and thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for making it. I'm Ross Van Oster, and I teach the heating and cooling classes for FMCC. The one-year certificate program is what some students go through. It's called HVACR, which stands for Heating, Ventilation, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration. I've been in the field for about 17 years and started a business 15 years ago. I now specialize on heat pumps with my own business, but I also do gas furnaces, boilers, things like that for people as well. You're going to learn a lot in the class. It's a fairly fast-paced one-year program where we really cover a lot of good material for heating and cooling. You're going to learn about AC systems for houses, also how small units work, like your appliances, the window units, and you'll also be able to walk into a walk-in cooler and have a basic understanding of how those components work and how you can diagnose them, do some repairs and maintenance. We also cover heating. We talk about gas heat, oil heat, boilers, things of that nature. Also heat pumps, which is basically a refrigeration unit that you can also put on reverse and just change the flow of the refrigerant so you get heat instead. We also talk about general air quality, airflow, things of that nature, ductwork, humidity, things like that. And we also get into equipment sizing for houses and commercial buildings as well. We talk about what's called a manual J. You used to do it on paper, but now we use software programs and we go over some of that stuff as well. So you'll have the basic understanding of doing stuff like that. And it's kind of nice for an employer to know that somebody has an understanding of estimating furnaces, the correct furnace sizes for houses and things like that. It's a good benefit to have in the field. We do a lot of hands-on. We have labs for every class. We have a nice big shop that we work in. We have multiple boilers, furnaces, air conditioning units. We have refrigerant training units, a lot of good tools that we use in the field, pipe cutter, pipe threader. We have gauges and brazing hardware, vacuum pumps, all the equipment you would need for heating and cooling, installation, and maintenance. There are a lot of jobs in the heating and cooling field. It is a field where there are fewer and fewer people in the field over the years, and more of a demand. It seems that there have been less, a lot of people have been kind of retiring out of the field, so the demand is definitely going up quickly over the years. So there are a lot of areas looking for employees right now. A lot of employers reach out to us directly, and sometimes they come to the class and talk to students. And sometimes I can just connect students with those employers directly through phone numbers and things of that nature, emails. We have a lot of people getting into not just specifically heating and cooling, but also just doing facility maintenance for local hospitals, factories, things of that nature that want you to do a little bit more than HVAC, maybe some electrical stuff and a little bit of plumbing and things like that. There are a lot of different directions you can go with HVAC. You can be either just a service tech where you go around and solve problems. So if you're a problem solver, that's a great direction for you to go. And then typically you would repair the unit, order the parts, take care of it. We have installers, people who just put in brand new equipment in houses, old houses, new houses. And there's a lot to learn in that, especially if you're working on older houses. You got to understand the basic construction of the house as well. You learn a lot of that in the field. There's also what we call tin knockers, people who kind of specialize in ductwork, which is a very large field. Different shapes of ductwork, how airflow works, how you modify for installing humidifiers, direction control, things of that nature, zone control. So there's a lot of different directions you can go, and then there are some jobs that are just a combination. There are some places that pay pretty well, such as the union. You can get in, and within about 5 years, you're making close to $40 an hour. So there's a lot of money to be made in this field. You can also start a business in this field. Once you have some experience in the field and you have some tools and a vehicle, there's definitely a demand for private businesses in this area for smaller companies. A lot of people can call around and they end up waiting for weeks sometimes. So there's definitely potential for starting your own small business. There is also room. Some people go on to get an associate's degree or a bachelor degree. You can do that. There are options out there for those. A lot of people who go for the HVACR certificate program typically go right into the work field. And as I said, there are so many opportunities available right now, and we do try to connect you with those opportunities. So our goal is that you're working as soon as you're ready to work. And that'd be all for what I got.
Yeah. So Ross, with the 1-year certificate, someone definitely could go right into the workforce. That'll be 2 semesters, and
Yep.
you've had students go right into the workforce and secure employment.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And I also want to add one thing our program does cover. I forgot to mention. We do also help technicians get their what's called the EPA 608. It's your refrigerant certification. And that's something that's really sought after as well.
Okay. So when you say that's sought after, is that like someone that you would go to work for a company it's sought after or
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of HVACR companies, whether they be the larger companies for the union or the smaller companies just for heating and cooling for residential, have trouble finding technicians that have the refrigerant certification. A lot of the companies in my area, some of the more medium-sized companies, might only have one guy with that refrigerant certification. So if they can have, more people with a refrigerant certification, they can spread out on different jobs. And then, of course, they want growth. So, yeah, it's definitely a big bonus to see that on your resume, that refrigerant certification when you're trying to get into the field.
Nice. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to swing back and get back to Jeremy. Jeremy was going to talk a little bit about our facilities maintenance programs. Jeremy, can you tell us a little bit about those programs?
There are a couple programs. I'll mention construction technology and then also facilities maintenance technology. Construction technology is geared for people who want to be involved with construction, maybe not the workers exactly. It's not necessarily a trades program, but it's about construction management. And so somebody coming out of there could maybe be a supervisor, foreman. They've got their feet wet with different trades, and maybe not an expert in every single one, but they've got their feet wet. It's a lot of hands-on. It's a lot of doing, and so people can get involved with an outfit that's going to maybe be doing bidding work and managing some people. That's construction technology. Then there's another program that's only a couple of years old. We started a couple of years ago, facilities maintenance technology. And that's as if construction technology and electrical technology had a baby. That's what that program is like. It's a combination of the two. And the roles that people have that come out of there are 2 main roles. One of them you can think of as being like property management. So they're involved with doing repairs and managing, maybe if there's an apartment building or something. So that would be the facilities maintenance. The people have some experience with plumbing, with piping, with some electrical feed kind of stuff. But there's some experience with controls. It uses some of the elect tech courses, some controls. And so the other role that people might have is as an industrial maintenance person. So it's not necessarily electrician, not necessarily mechanic, but a lot more manufacturers are going to more broadly defined roles. The old school is you had electricians, you had pipers, and some places are like that, some larger places are like that, but many manufacturers now have people with multiple skills. You might have a specialty in one area. Nobody expects you to know everything. So those are two more programs. The construction technology and the facilities maintenance technology. There's also a one-year certificate that goes along with the facilities maintenance.
Nice. Yeah. What would you say as far as the facilities maintenance, Jeremy? What kinds of jobs do you think our graduates could move into in that area?
Yeah. So those are the two areas. Those are kind of manufacturing or industrial maintenance people, or the property management maintenance people. I have a little comment on, after hearing Ross and Roger talking about things, I have another quick comment on any of these programs. And that is, we hear so much about the trades, and the trades are needed, and trying to hire a plumber, trying to hire a piper, and that's all true. But the thing is, we don't hear about the middle level skills as much. The middle level skills is roles that have more than high school education, but not necessarily a 4-year degree. There are a lot of roles out there that people have not heard of, and that's a lot of these technician level roles. And so that's why I commend you for checking this out, because at least you have an idea about what's available. But so many people don't know, and there are so many opportunities. And one thing that Ross was saying about an aging workforce, I see that across the board. I go in a lot of different employers in our area, and pretty much all of them say, well, so-and-so has got 3 years before they retired, so-and-so's got 2 years. It's referred to as the gray tsunami. It's this wave of people who are about to retire, people who have grown with these roles, but it's leaving. And in the last generation or so, not a lot of people have gone into these middle-level skills. I mean, that's the problem we see with the trades, and I think that people can kind of directly see and understand that, because people understand what plumbers are and what electricians are. So people understand that problem, but people don't see the shortage of skilled, technician-level workers. There are 2 manufacturers in the area who have told me that they're holding off on more business because they cannot find the technical help. And they're not talking about engineers. They're talking about technician-level employees. They're stuck. They have the equipment and they have the opportunity for jobs and orders, but they don't have the people for the staff to run. The one place is in Schenectady, and they run some automated equipment, some robotics, really cool stuff that they can't find the people. And so.
Interesting. This is really a question for any of the professors. What are you hearing from employers? I know that we have advisory boards that advise you as far as our programs and what should be included in our programs to be relevant to what's needed in the workforce. What are you hearing from employers about what are the attributes and skills that they are looking for from our graduates to be successful and to be hired? What's lacking in the workforce that employers are really, they're like, if I could just find somebody who has these skills, what are you hearing from employers?
Well, I would say that there's 2 things. People have to be able to work with other people. You got to like that, because the idea of just going on a job and doing it all yourself doesn't really, it doesn't happen that much anymore. You usually are with someone else, and you're with a team, and whatever you do, you want to report it back to the group so everyone knows what's going on. There's no surprises. I'd say that's one of them. One thing you need to be able to do. The other thing is you have to have an understanding of what it is you're working on, right? Just the background, when you go through these classes, you will have an understanding of how things work. And then you'll have a pretty good idea if they're broken or they're not working, what the cause is, right? I think that understanding and able to work with others and being able to communicate, it's a big deal. I think I would say that. What do you think, Ross?
I've had employers looking for some combination skills as well. Something that some companies have trouble finding is people who have a good combination of mechanical and electrical skills. That seems to be a good benefit for companies in the local area when they can, you know, depending on the specific jobs, there is a shortage of the combination skills.
I can toss in, and it's the same attributes that make a good student too, is being where you're supposed to be and being prepared with what you're supposed to have. I hear that from employers. And I'll also throw in that we do have a good relationship with an advisory council. As I mentioned, the employers want our people, so they're willing to step forward and help us out. And we do have annual meetings with an advisory council, and we review what we've done in the past year and look for guidance and suggestions and try to learn what's important. So we do have that.
Very good. Well, I think that concludes our chat with our technology professors. I want to thank all the professors for your participation and your fantastic information. That was really, really, really great. So if you're interested in learning more about FM, we would love to hear from you. We'd like to sit down with you and learn about what your career goals are. Currently, we're not on campus, but we are scheduling phone appointments. We can do a virtual appointment, just like we're having a virtual chat today. We can do it via email, text messaging, whatever is easiest for you. And the easiest way to get a hold of us is to go to fmcc.edu. And you can make an appointment right on the front page of our website. Perhaps you're ready to already apply for admission, and that would be fantastic. I just want to let you know that we offer a free application for admission on our website. To be accepted to the college, you just simply need to prove that either you're a high school graduate with a high school transcript or submit your high school equivalency diploma, formerly known as a GED. We'll get that together and get you registered for classes for the upcoming fall. And with that, again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for this Technology Professor Chat. I'm Laura Laporte from the admissions office, and have a great day, everyone.